Hello everyone, I'm Lauren Nordnellis and I'm the founder and executive director of Food Empowerment Project, and this is part 4 in the series we've been doing in honor of my 30-year vegan anniversary. We have been going through our program areas, talking about the issues behind the programs as well as what we do as an organization. So the first one we did was on, what was the first one we did, Erica? Farm workers?
Yes.
We did farm workers, so we talked about the plight of farm workers today who work and live in horrendous conditions so that we can all eat produce. We talked about our work in those areas, including our school supply drive for the children of farm workers. The second one we did was on slavery and the worst forms of child labor in the chocolate industry, and we talked about our list and our apps to help people eat their ethics. And then last week we did one on access to healthy foods in communities of color and low-income communities, and talked about the injustices that take place as well as some of the work that we're doing on this issue. And last but not least is our work promoting veganism. We are an ethically based organization, so we are vegan for the animals. And we save that for last because that is very close to our hearts, as well as a core component of all of our work. And again, we work to connect the issues. So veganism connects with farm worker justice because we need to advocate and lend our voices to the needs of farm workers because we are dependent upon them for everything we eat, unless you eat things that grow out of your own garden, as well as we're encouraging other people to eat more fruits and vegetables. So it's really incumbent upon us to make sure that we don't ignore the suffering of farm workers. We also work on access to healthy foods, ties in with veganism, because we know not everybody has access to fresh fruits and fresh vegetables or even meat and dairy alternatives. And this is an area that we feel very strongly is our responsibility. If we want people to stop consuming animals for the sake of the animals, we need to make sure that they even have access to fresh fruits and vegetables. One, because it's a justice issue. Diets low in fresh fruits and vegetables are not very good. And also, everybody should have the ability to eat their ethics. And if we want people to stop consuming animals and go vegan, we want to make sure that their access to healthy food is a right and not a privilege like it is currently. But today, shall focus on veganism. And I'm going to just talk, this is Erica.
Hello.
Erica, tell everybody who you are.
I am FEP's Office and Marketing Manager.
And she's our social media guest. So Erica and I, we're just going to talk about veganism and talk about our lives in veganism, as well as some of the programs that we have at Food Empowerment Project. So I'm just going to ask Erica to tell us a little bit about why she went vegan and when she went vegan. Now I'm interviewing her.
I think it's going on 4, maybe 5 years of being vegan. I went vegan for a couple of reasons. I'll shorten this story. I adopted some chickens, some backyard chickens. I was already pescatarian, vegetarian. I was still eating fish, unfortunately, and calling myself a vegetarian. Anyways, so I adopted some chickens. I learned that they have these complex personalities and they're just so wonderful. Well, actually, I queued this up. That's when I adopted them, these little furry chicken butts. So I learned about chickens and I started digging more into, the egg industry and learning how horrific it is. And then on my Facebook page, International Respect for Chickens? Yes, International Respect for Chickens Day was right around the corner. And it popped up on my Facebook page because I was writing a lot about chickens at that time. And so I went to that protest and I met some other activists and I thought it was really cool, and they were vegan and I never really knew what vegan was. And then I went to a, what is it called? The Veg Fest, Sonoma County Veg Fest, and I met some POC vegans, and I thought that was so freaking cool that there was vegans that looked like me and they were really cool, and so that kind of just pushed me into veganism, and I went vegan that day.
Yay!
So yeah, my little story.
Love your story. And can you just tell us a little bit about Prudence lately? And I have to ask, is Prudence named after Dear Prudence?
She is.
Which I like based on Susie and the Banshees, but I guess it's also a Beatles song.
It is a Beatles song. I because I adopted the 4 of them, so I named them after 4 Beatles songs. So
I'm not a Beatles fan. Do not support FEP because of this.
I know,
we have
sorry.
a Beatles fan.
I'm sorry. It is Prudence, Rita, Sadie, and Penny. So
I know
they're
the
the
Penny
Fab
song.
4. Unfortunately, Sadie's no longer with us because, as I'm sure everyone knows, the egg industry and just humans manipulating chickens' DNA and bodies. She died of cancer when she was only 2 years old, I think. So very, very young.
So tell us about
Prudence, for some reason, we just recently moved, and I don't know what it is. It must be a mixture of the weather getting nicer, and her getting situated in her new home. But she is just, she is wanting love right now. And she is following us around, and she's purring, and she's just wanting to talk with us, and it's the cutest freaking thing ever.
She posts little videos of her. She's really cute.
I do. So yeah, enough about me. Moving on to
trying
Lauren,
to get her more
please.
comfortable, right? We don't want to just hear from me all the time. So basically, my story is that I always have to go way back to give some background. So when I was in elementary school, I went vegetarian. My mom, it always goes like, what age was I exactly? But probably around 5. Erica. Sorry about that, everybody.
Got it.
That basically my parents were getting divorced when I was around 4. And when I was about 5 years old, my mom told me that the chicken I was eating was a chicken. And I guess I was horrified, and I decided I didn't want to eat chickens anymore. But I also saw many times that, I grew up in Texas, so I saw the cows in the field all the time. And I think I really was able to, looking back on it, was able to associate the separation of families, that I could just picture me eating what I thought would be a hamburger at that time and making it so that mom and the baby were never together again. And so I think that, learning who a chicken was, I was vegetarian in elementary school, growing up in Texas, and I remember being at the lunch counter and grabbing my tray along, and they wanted to know if I wanted beef on my enchiladas, and I said no, and I said I don't eat meat, and they said, are you a vegetarian? But in my young mind, and not really ever hearing the word in the 70s, vegetarian, I thought they meant like a veterinarian, and so I was like, I'm not a veterinarian. Like, I just completely confused why she thought I could be a veterinarian. So eventually, we didn't have a lot of money growing up, and so eventually I had to eat the food that people gave us, and eventually had to go back to consuming animals. And then when I was 16, I decided I'm never eating, I'll eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every day. I'm never eating another animal. And so I was vegetarian for a while, and then when I was 17, it's a complex story, but I eventually got involved in the animal rights movement, and learned about veganism. And had never heard about veganism, had never heard about factory farming before, and eventually went vegan 30 years ago Monday, after I heard who would become my mentor, Don Barnes, talk about the fact that he was a vegan, and he was an ex-vivisector, ex-hunter, and he went vegan. And so I went home that night, told my sisters they could have my shoes and my belts. I was already not wearing leather anymore because I knew they came from a cow. And so so then I went vegan. And I think that for a food empowerment project, our basis is really just trying not to cause harm to others. And by not consuming animals, that's one of the easiest ways to not contribute to suffering of another being. But we also do not just look at veganism in terms of human consumption. I don't know if you can see any of our friends here on the table, but we have, can they see this?
Maybe. There's a delay.
We're looking to see if you can see any of these animals. I'm showing you lions and tigers and bears and rhinos, who we are adamantly opposed to their killing, and any animal who's killed for hunting. We know not everybody has access to healthy foods. Access to be vegan, but we know the vast majority of people in this country do. We are also opposed to eating sea creatures like sharks and fish and chickens. And we all here's a shark, another shark. And we also don't want kitties or kitties or kitties
Oh my gosh,
or
so
even
many
dogs.
things.
Whoops, doggy flip. We don't want animals experimented on. And we also don't want animals kept in captivity for any reason. So, yeah, can you tell we got all of our little critters out to show you who we are advocating for. So, we don't want animals. We don't want to cause suffering to animals, whether it be animals who are raised and killed for food, animals who are used in captivity, animals who are hunted, animals who are used in entertainment. We don't want any of these animals to suffer. And that goes for bees as well. And I know that sometimes, I recently gave a talk about veganism at a social justice conference. And of course, the bee issue came up. And for us, it's pretty simple that it's a matter of suffering. If they have the potential to suffer, we don't want them to suffer. We know that bees, the queen bees, have their wings pulled off. We know that the bees are smoked out, and so they are killed in the processing of honey. And so it's that simple premise that guides what we do. We don't want suffering to human or non-human animals. And when you eat several times a day, you have a responsibility to lessen the suffering in the world, I believe. This is also a picture, hopefully you can see this. Tell me if I have to go closer. But of a duck. I did many investigations of factory farms and slaughterhouses. And this is, every time I did an investigation, there was always one animal that I would bond with. And I would see that animal and I would remind myself, no matter how scared I was, that is who I was doing it for. So that picture is of one of the little ducks. I did not liberate that ducks, although I did go on to liberate ducklings, not that particular one. But that duck inspired me to get the footage, and when I saw a worker, I had to jump over the fence, cut my arm, and rip my shirt. But I got the footage out. And, I did this with investigations of pig farms where the pigs, who are very large animals because they're bred to be large, ran up to me like dogs with their ears flapping. And again, different ratio spaces for these animals. You had the mother pigs in gestation crates and farrowing crates, so small. This is where they're kept when they're pregnant and after they've given birth, but so small that they couldn't even turn around. And the boredom, the sheer boredom that these very intelligent animals experienced, and I would constantly hear them banging their heads against the crate, the gestation crate. And again, intelligence is no means to value someone or not. Just the sheer fact that they can feel pain is enough to not want to harm them. So veganism for us is about all of these issues. We focus on food primarily because we are a vegan food justice organization and because I needed to figure out how to narrow down the premise to the organization. Otherwise, I'd be talking about everybody and everything. And again, because we eat several times a day, we have an opportunity to help create change 2 to 3 times a day. So I picked working on veganism, but it doesn't mean that we ignore all the other aspects and ways in which animals are exploited and killed in our society. So we do talk about this in our way of looking at veganism on our website. What else should we talk about veganism in terms of? I mean, we know veganism and a diet higher in fruits and vegetables is good for our health. We know it's better for the planet as well. But we are an ethics-based organization, and so we surely really bring attention to the non-human animals who are impacted. I just wanted to point out a book called A Vegan Ethic. It's by animal rights author Mark Hawthorne, who also happens to be my husband. But I'm promoting this mostly because I was a fan of Mark Hawthorne's writing and his work even before we were together. He wrote this book, A Vegan Ethic, and I can't recommend it more highly, that it goes through the different ways in which animals are exploited, but it also does tie in some of the other issues, such as other humans that are impacted by the food industry, as well as just the food industry in general. And he interviews a lot of vegan activists who also work on human justice issues as well. And I very, very much recommend that book. It's great for people who've been vegan for a while and for new vegans as well. So just wanted to point that book out as well. Is there any questions on just sheer veganism before I go into our work?
We don't have any questions
Okay,
yet.
I want to just say something that Fernando had a question last week about asking if in the past 30 years I've been stuck on a deserted island because of all these questions that we get as vegans, including like, it's you know, your dog or your cat and a person on the boat, and who do you save, and all those kinds of things. And I just want to say that I did a TEDx talk, and what the TEDx talk taught me, other than they have a lot of rules and criteria for being able to do a talk, which is why at first I refused, is the best way to communicate veganism is probably our own stories and who it is that we are. I think that the movement, the animal movement for a while has pushed really for us to talk about dogs and cats and make the correlation with their feelings and their suffering as not being very different from pigs or chickens or other animals. But I also think our stories are important as to why we got here. I think Erica's is important because it can help other people connect with maybe chickens that they have that they're raising for eggs or something like that and see them differently. My experience as somebody who connected it with families and divorce and separating families is important too. I also think that those of us who are people of color, our stories might be different than other people because of our experiences and our background that got us to the place that we are now. And I think that we need to value our own voices on our own experiences and use those as storytelling, regardless of what anybody else in the movement tries to say. I'm trying to remember, lost my train of thought a little bit, but I think that when we talk about it from our own perspective, it's quite powerful, because when I tell somebody why I'm vegan and when I explain to people why Food Empowerment Project simply is an organization that's trying to lessen some of the suffering in the world, there are very few people who will argue with that, because it's that simple. I can shout statistics at them about the environmental impact. I can give them all sorts of information about the nutritious aspects, and those are absolutely valid. But for us, simply talking about the need to protect others, need to protect the most vulnerable, which is human and non-human animals, I think that that is something that people may not feel themselves, or it may remind them that they once felt that way, and that they too want to figure out ways, especially now, to try and lessen some of the suffering in the world.
Heidi writes, when does Mark Hawthorne's updated version of Striking at the Roots get released? That's going to be amazing. You are a vegan powerhouse couple.
Oh, thank you, Heidi. Yeah, total shout out to Mark's 10-year anniversary of Striking at the Roots is coming out this year, later on this year, and you can already pre-order it. And what's brilliant about this book is that he interviews activists from all over the world about what they have found to be useful in terms of being an activist. And so he's not writing as from an organization who has their own institutional bias. He's writing at it as somebody who's an activist. I mean, the reason why he wrote it is because nothing like this existed when he first got involved in activism. So he wanted to learn from all sorts of people around the world about what they found to be important and effective for the animals. And he also includes information, which is very important, which is something that I struggle with and I constantly try to ask Erica to work on, which is self-care. Because I'm happy to work all the time, but there is some need to take care of ourselves. He also, in this newest issue, goes into also talking about the issues in the animal rights movement with how women have been treated. So that's really important. But to get back quickly about self-care, keep in mind that I got involved in animal rights when I was in high school. And so my whole life, everything in my life has been geared towards animal rights. So I have very few outside interests, other than other political issues. So I think it's really important that people try to develop those, and I'm struggling. I'm trying to work on it. And so I try to get Erica to really foster these other things that she likes to do, like gardening. because, and also absorbing and learning more about her Filipinx background. So really important things that we all need to try and do, and it's really great that Striking at the Roots is going to have even more information about that. And I mentioned to Andrea, one of our board members, that my whole life has been geared towards animal rights. When I was in high school and I got into animal rights, I guess I should say before, I had planned on joining the Peace Corps. I didn't know at the time how horrible the Peace Corps was. I thought it was something good, and I planned on just joining the Peace Corps. But once I got involved in animal rights, all my animal rights family basically was like, you got to go to college. And unfortunately, that's the same thing my family was telling me too. So I had both pieces of my family telling me I need to go to college. And I decided to go to college for the animals. Luckily, my sister had enrolled me in school without me knowing, so I was already going to be getting into a local college. But my whole life was geared toward doing animal rights. So I was just explaining to Andrea how every time I was given an assignment in college, I would tell them, I can't gear this towards animal rights. And I'm coming to college for animal rights. You have to let me gear my project around animal rights, or what's the point of me going to college? So I think that that's how much it's been part of my life. And I think that that's something that for all of you college students to remember too. If there's something, whether it be animal rights or human rights or immigration issues or whatever it is, to remind the professors that you already know what you want to do, and try and make sure that everything that you're given as an assignment, you can gear towards what it is that you want to do in your life. Or you could be like people not me and just be really open to exploring all these other things. But I had a pretty much one-way track in my head, so.
Definitely. Heidi just commented, the desert island question. And then again, I have a question. How do you politely respond to someone in a public forum when they say going vegan is easy? I always want to say something, but I don't want to come across as rude or preachy, because many of us know that it's not easy for everyone to go vegan for social or economic reasons.
Excellent. Fantastic question. And this is a tricky situation, right? And I think that depending on the situation, who it is, probably will determine how you handle it. And this is something we get as an organization because we are constantly trying to challenge people on that notion that it's easy to go vegan. But sometimes I'll say, well, it's not easy for everybody to go vegan, and we definitely want everybody to, but we should be aware that it's not that easy. If you can pull them aside privately and remind them that we sound ignorant when we say that, because there's a lot of people in the audience who may have family members who know better. And so sometimes I'll just try and slip it in there and just say, yeah, it'd be great if it was easy for everybody, but we know not everybody has easy access to fresh fruits and vegetables, especially those communities of color who lack even, a lot of grocery stores. Even though we don't think grocery stores are the end-all and be-all of solving that issue, just a way to get some context in there. So I hope that helps, but I encourage you to always be polite and slip it in there. And again, if they start to challenge that, then you lay down the truth. And if they try to say things like, oh, they can eat beans and rice every day, absolutely take on that as well. Mm-hmm. And I'm keeping my cuss words to a minimum.
Yes. She says, it does, thanks. Sarah Rice writes, so true. My veganism was born from human rights concerns, environmental racism, factory farm workers, and slaughterhouse workers. And I was just going back to what you were saying before.
Cool.
Yeah.
So going back 30 years really quick and going vegan in Texas, how different are things now is really interesting because I was just telling Erica about something we used to eat called wheat meat. And it was just basically like wheat gluten, and we'd slice it up, put it on bread with barbecue sauce, and that was like amazing to us. Our veggie burgers, and some of you longtime vegans will remember it too, which was just this powdered stuff you'd get out of the bulk section. You'd boil some hot water, and you'd add it, and you'd mix it, and then you'd have to form the patties yourself and fry them. That was veggie burgers for us. The soy
struggle.
milk. Yeah, the struggle's weird, you youngins. You have it easy.
Totally.
And then we had, rice milk, which really tasted like iced water. with a little bit of something in it. That was like, and I don't know for other like longtime vegans, or maybe vegans still do it today, but how much we act like that stuff tasted good. Like the cheese would be like plastic, and it would not, I mean, we're getting to the melting point of cheese, which is great, but this cheese would be like, seriously, you just like pull it off and it'd be like plastic, and there was nothing like inside except for what seemed like plastic. But we would act like that was the best thing ever. Again, for those people who aren't vegan, remember that we're not going vegan. I mean, there are lots of vegans out there who loved steaks, who loved hamburgers. I went vegetarian and got that whole thing pretty young, but I loved mac and cheese. So there's a lot of things that it's not about not liking how the food tastes. It's about not wanting to contribute to suffering. It's not wanting to harm those animals. And if we have to do without that food, so be it. We don't want to hurt anybody else when we don't have to. But luckily, a lot of these products that aren't real animals are now in existence. You can get all sorts of sea critters foods that are vegan and
very realistic too.
Yeah, I
it's kind
can't
of scary. Yeah.
touch the sea creatures because, as you can see, sea animals are my favorites. But there's like everything out there, I think, now. I mean, you can get vegan corn dogs.
Corn dogs, yeah.
Literally all of the sea critters. You had vegan shrimp or something.
Yeah.
Is that? There's like vegan fish and everybody, but you don't have to. I mean, for us as vegans, we're always trying to remind people it's not necessarily the flesh of the animal you think tastes so good. It's the spices that make it smell good and taste good. It's not necessarily just the flesh, right? And I can use an old way back analogy of it's not as if we see, a cow and we want to pounce on their back and rip their flesh off. We aren't even comprised that way anatomically. So anyway. Yeah. Is there anything else before I can dive into our work?
Leah writes, Nature's Burger.
Nature's Burger, that's what it was called. Thank you. My gosh, that's so funny.
I have no idea.
Eventually they put it in a box that we could buy, right?
That's so
really funny.
Yeah, you can literally get anything you craved pre-vegan. You can literally get it vegan.
Well,
now.
There's some not.
What are you thinking?
What am I craving that everybody's be like, Lauren, you're disgusting. Cottage cheese.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think of that. Cheese.
Cottage cheese.
Yeah.
I'm waiting. But we've tried some of the, like, a woman gave Mark and I some at a conference, and it was like a deviled egg, and it literally was like a devil. It wasn't even like a scramble. It was like the actual bottom part. Yeah. So some of the stuff exists out there.
I'm wondering if it's out there. We just don't know about it.
It's true.
Yeah.
I mean, we're only in Northern California.
I was going to say, other countries are way ahead of us.
Yeah, so sorry for anybody in, like, the South or in Texas who doesn't know what the heck we're talking about, or I guess even in the central of the United States. But they're coming there. We're getting these good products.
Mm-hmm. Heidi writes, we had some amazing vegan feta in Melbourne.
Melbourne. Yeah, in Australia, talk about, like, vegan heaven. It's like this street, and like there's a Vietnamese place that's all vegan. There's like vegan ice cream, vegan Thai place, like pizza. It was like so much food. It's amazing. And they have vegan grocery stores.
Yeah.
The Aussies.
Amazing. Heidi wrote, Melbourne. Oh, is that how you say it?
She's trying to...
Melbourne. Grayson writes, any tips on how to present the importance of veganism to youth? I teach sustainability at a Boy Scout camp during the summer. Not sure if it's Q&A time, sorry.
No, we're gonna talk about our programs. We definitely just wanted to get the vegan stuff in. So how to talk about it to youth. I think that it's about bringing it back to caring about animals. And maybe that's really naive, so feel free to let me know if that seems really naive. But I think that, I don't know how old the kids are, but so many kids were touched by books like Charlotte's Web and movies that really talk about just animals as individuals. And so I always think it's important to remind them just about the animals and how much they love animals, and if they have companion animals, how similar they are. That so many times that we don't have the same affection and affinity for, say, chickens or fish or cows or pigs is because we don't know them in the same way as we know other animals. And kind of tapping into that compassion that they have in them, although I know that, especially at that age, they might be challenged by their parents, and to recognize that might be an issue, and just being a sense of support and providing them all the tools that if they want to stick with it, that they have outlets to look into. I don't know if that was a good enough answer, if that's something you've already done, but... That's just one thought, but we'd be happy to talk to you more about it too.
Great. No questions so far.
Okay, so we're going to go into FEP's work. So on veganism. So we have this cool leaflet we created called Ya Basta. And Ya Basta in Spanish means like enough. And basically it's for high school and college students. It's in English because kids who are in high school and college, even though they may be Latinx, they still speak English. So we have that talking about the prevalence of fast food and other industries who don't care about the health of communities of color, and how taking over this by demanding access to healthy foods and going vegan are some of the possibilities. One of the other things that Food Empowerment Project had, and we'll be updating everybody on this soon, is our food chain newsletter, which was to help people go and stay vegan. And every newsletter contained information about an animal, how they were raised and killed for food, nutrition, support, so like, what do you say to people who say plants feel pain? As well as environmental and labor issues, recipes. We did a pilot project of that, and we just got the data from that. So we will be updating people on that soon. One of the other outreach that we do, we're based here in Sonoma County, which is known as like the butter and eggs capital. So what we've been doing for a long time was we've been protesting in front of Petaluma Poultry, which is a chicken slaughterhouse. And we protested in front of there for over 3 years, focusing on the fact that they kill about 50,000 birds a year. Small slaughterhouse owned by Purdue. And they used about 315,000 gallons of water a day at this slaughterhouse when California was going through its worst drought. We talked about the chickens as individuals as well as the workers and how they were treated. But this is an outreach event that we did for a while. We have just launched on Monday, which again was my 30-year anniversary date, our newest effort. So where we are in Sonoma County, if you've ever seen the Happy Cow commercials, those so-called happy cows are from Marin and Sonoma counties, and Sonoma County is where we're based. So we have a lot of cows out here on open green fields. And as many of you probably know, this is looked to seen as the happy cows, the sustainable cows, the cows who aren't in feedlots, the cows who aren't sitting in dirt, that somehow these cows are different. But the thing is, these cows share some things in common. One is that all these mama cows have their babies inside of them for 9 months, and they give birth to these babies who they love, and they're taken away from them immediately after birth. And here in Sonoma County, many of these males are taken to the auction house where the male cows' umbilical cords are still wet. I've seen it for myself. The female calves are put into crates. They look like little hutches. And that is where they are put until they are of age to become impregnated, and they will then in turn go back to the dairying herd. You can't keep these animals together because the babies want the milk because it's made for them. It's not made for human beings. Again, why we call what some people call lactose intolerance, which puts the burden on people of color, because most of us are lactose intolerant, that something's wrong with us. It reminds people that there's nothing wrong with us. One, because colonization is what brought those animals to our lands. And two, there's nothing wrong with us for not being able to digest milk of another species into adulthood, or if ever. So our newest effort is us actually going out. We posted a picture earlier, maybe we'll post one again, of us being physically where the cows are and reminding people how that the babies are taken away from the mothers and, of course, the environmental impacts. We will be doing this effort once a month throughout the county. We have our flyer, which Erica can provide a link to, and we talk about the environmental impact, the worker impact, and of course, most importantly, the animals, and the fact that there are alternatives. We're doing this not to, so we could look at this campaign in two different ways. We can look at it as a way to challenge a very powerful industry in our community where there are billboards everywhere for the dairy industry and talking about happy cows. And we can look at it as some way to be very sensationalistic and controversial. But we are about building bridges and not building walls. So what we want to do is we want to show and tap into the community that all we're talking about is compassion towards animals. Nothing controversial about compassion towards animals. We don't want these farmers to be bankrupt. We want them to get into a new business, especially when you consider how impressive the milk alternative industry has become. That we want them to thrive just without the animal cruelty. When we did this outreach on Monday, the response we got was incredible. So much support. It was, I was not anticipating in such a heavy dairy area what a positive response we would get. Keep in mind, I should have mentioned earlier, that we have, we're in Northern California where there is a lot of traffic. So we have the 101 and there's a parallel road and go. So we have people who probably do this drive every day of the week, back and forth. And so we're going to hope to build a relationship with some of these commuters. Eventually, when it gets warmer, we're going to hope to reach out to some of the vegan ice cream companies and hand out vegan ice creams, which I've done in the past and goes over incredibly well, to show them how delicious these alternatives are. Now, I have a lot more ideas on what I want to do. But we don't have the financial ability to do that. But our goal is to build bridges and talk to the community and get the community not to be scared of us, but just to remember and tap into that sense of compassion that we all really truly have for animals, and also for those who are currently making money off of animal suffering, that they look into another business so that their families can thrive, because this is an industry, not to sound trite, but it is a dying industry in more ways than one. And it's best for them to get in something that is good for the planet, good for the animals, and good for them. So we're calling this One Glass at a Time. The leaflet, if you can't read it, says, do you care about animals and want to help end their suffering? Try it one glass at a time. Reminding people that they have the ability to not contribute to the suffering of animals by not consuming their byproducts or consuming them at all. The next big effort, should I go through? Okay, so I'm going to skip to another effort. Many of you may be familiar with our website, veganmexicanfood.com. It is in English and in Spanish. Actually, our main website, foodispower.org, is also available in English and Spanish. But currently, we are working on transforming veganmexicanfood.com into a booklet. The booklet will go into veganism for the animals, as well as lactose normal, as well as colonization, and more importantly, give people loads of vegan Mexican food recipes. I created this site as a very proud Chicanx, so for our community, as well as for others to see how vegan friendly our community is and how colonization is what brought a lot of these animals onto our lands. But the booklet will be in English and Spanish together. So we are currently working on that. And then our last big vegan project is called Fight for the Ocean. And I wrote a blog about it recently, and it's in honor of Dr. Sylvia Earle. There's a documentary out called Mission Blue, which is about Dr. Sylvia Earle, who I'm a very big fan of right now. I'll talk about her in a second because I could go on all day about that, which I probably shouldn't. But basically it's this. There's a lot of days out there, respecting Water Day, Respect the Ocean Day, but the ocean and all who live within her are under attack right now. And we need to fight for her, and we need to fight for all the animals inside. So what we're calling on people to do is to stop consuming animals, as well as to join us on August 30th, Dr. Sylvia Earle's birthday, and help with ocean cleanup. Doesn't necessarily just have to be the ocean, because I'm somebody who lived in Texas and the ocean was 4 hours away. So Erica's providing. I'm like, get the Sharkies, get my Sharkies. So to go to do some either the lake cleanup or river cleanup, do something for the ocean. You know, a lot of times you have a lot of conservation groups going out there and doing these ocean cleanups, and they don't necessarily talk about not consuming sea creatures. You also have vegans talking about not consuming sea creatures, but not also blending in. We need to take direct responsibility for the ocean as much as we can as well, and try and clean what we can up. And a lot of it, unfortunately, tends to be fishing line. But again, I have a lot of ideas on more that I want to do with this effort. We don't have the financial ability to just yet, but I, as Erica knows, constantly have ideas on different things that we can do. But this one is very special to my heart because sea creatures I love. And so right now we're just starting it as August 30th, the Ocean Cleanup Day. And if people want to start that day as a day to stop consuming animals, and possibly starting with those in the ocean, because we are losing so many animals, the corals, the sharks, all sorts of fish. And I get all weepy because we are really losing them. And it's frightening to think how much we are taking constantly from the ocean every day. And I don't know, like, the best way to start it, right? To really, truly make a difference is just something. You know, we have to do something. And so we ask you to help us out with this. And, you know, somebody in this documentary states that the ocean could be dead inside and it'll still look the same. And that's true. But we can't let that happen. We just can't. Dr. Earl is asked, you know, what period of time, you know, like, when would she like to be alive? And she says now. Because back then, when she first got started, we didn't know all the damage that we could do to the ocean. We know now. We know that we don't have an endless surplus of tuna. And surplus meaning not consuming them. I'm talking about just their ability to exist in this world. We're losing them. And now we know the damage we can do. And we all have to do our can. That's why I'm using the word fight. Because we have to fight for her. We have to fight for the ocean. For all the women out there, I also encourage you to watch the documentary because it's a very interesting take on women. In the documentary, am I talking way too much? What time is that?
You're fine. It's only 2:40.
I know, we got to do massive Q&A though. Sorry. But the documentary, the only women they interview is her and her daughter, and the rest are men that they interview. And it's really interesting to watch when they're asked about her, these men are asked about her, and they'll say things like, well, when you break through the glass ceiling and you're better than everybody else, it can really make your relationships difficult. And I feel like if that was a man, they would be like, I admire him for what he's done. So many times she's asked about her family, her divorces, her children, and I'm like, how many times does that come up for men when they're being interviewed in a documentaries about them? So it's an interesting lesson as well for us as women, because I hope that we would be more appreciative and respectful and honest about how much we admire one another. And I admire this woman. She's great as well. And what caught my eye about her was that she talked about the fact that she doesn't eat fish. She talks about the fact that we don't need to consume fish oil, that there's other ways we can get those oils that are healthy for us. So I like the fact that she's very humble. She doesn't try to act like she's a superwoman and that's why she can do it. She's like, anybody can do this. So I wrote a very long blog that had to be cut down about her. But again, we have these two things coming up August 30th. And if you live in the area, just to make you aware of our effort, and I encourage anybody who lives in an area where there's a lot of dairies, you know, let's talk about how we're doing this, how you might want to join and do something similar. Because, again, people don't understand. And we can say that everybody has access to the internet and they should know, but not everybody knows. They still believe that cows are giving their milk. They don't know that, just like human beings, cows are only giving milk when they're pregnant. They don't know that. And they don't know what happens to the babies. They don't know what happens to the moms. And they sure as heck don't know that they're living beings inside these little crates who can't even walk freely. So I'll stop with my little teary-eyed stuff to see if there's any questions.
No. Well, the only question, Kez says, what was the name of that documentary again, where they talk about the women as well? I missed that part.
Mission Blue.
Mission Blue.
It's on Netflix.
Yeah.
So if you don't have Netflix, I'm really sorry, because it is very, I don't know. It's kind of rude of me to mention a documentary that you would be able to have to pay for Netflix, and I'm sorry for that. But maybe somebody will pick it up and it can get run more. But my documentary is available on Netflix now. my blog, hopefully you can read my blog, and it'll give you more information about it. I was light on the statistics, though.
Mm-hmm. And I posted that blog in the comments, along with our anti-dairy campaign. Julia says, thanks for all you do. I love FEP. I have a question. I am involved with anti-capitalism activism. Sorry, I keep bouncing around. And think there are so many powerful overlaps in the vegan and socialist movements. Unfortunately, leftist groups are often hostile to veganism. I know FEP is not political in this way, but just wondering about your thoughts on this topic and whether there is a potential to link these groups of committed activists.
I absolutely think that there is a way, and I find very good reactions when I talk to socialists about these issues. And I think because the way that we do things at Food Empowerment Project isn't always capitalist based. So our solution for lack of access to healthy foods is not bringing in big chain grocery stores. It's worker-owned cooperatives and people growing their own food. It's about people living in their community, the community working, the community supporting itself and not reliant on anybody else. So I think that just, again, breaking things down like this is what's important. We also, as an organization, are constantly challenging corporations. We have a campaign against Safeway right now. We had a campaign against Cliff Bar. So we are, wanting corporations to make changes, significant changes at times. So I find a very, very easy way of that our efforts are anti-capitalist. That's probably what I could say about that. We could talk more
off camera. Kez says, thank you. I will watch it. Grayson, this is exciting. Your live streams are great. I just want you to come guest speak in my sustainability class. It's in Sonoma County. Come through FEP.
Heck yeah!
I know, we would
love that. Oh, Sonoma County's so wonderful.
No. Yes, it is. Yeah. So that would be amazing. Grayson, if you want to send an email to us, we can definitely set that up.
Yeah, that would be so great.
Yeah. Jaya says, loved the blog and your passion for the ocean animals.
Thanks, Jaya. I know, I get all weepy. There's certain things that make me weepy even though I don't want to be.
Yeah.
Animals just happen to be one of those things. I think I cried in the last one too about the little girl. God,
you're passionate, and it's very important stuff. It is legitimate, and it's okay. It's okay to be emotional and weepy.
It's true. We pride in emotion here.
Yes. Well, unfortunately, I'm not there, you guys. I cannot do that on camera. I will push it all down.
She'll get there.
Julia says, thank you, Lauren, with a heart. Oh. And Andrea says, there is power in the weepy.
Thank you, Andrea.
And that's it so far.
That's it?
Mm-hmm.
What else can we muster up of 30 years of veganism?
There's a lot. Yesterday was the World Day for Lab Animals.
World Day for Animals in Laboratories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I changed that. I worked for the organization that started that, and I changed it to be World Day for Animals in Laboratories versus lab animals, because animals are independent in and of themselves. They shouldn't be defined by how we exploit them. Definitely. So yeah, I ran a long time campaign against Procter & Gamble, who I still boycott to this day. As you can probably see from the pictures we posted.
Yeah, definitely. I think everybody should, but maybe I shouldn't say that.
Everybody should what? Boycott Procter & Gamble? Heck yeah! Boycott Procter & Gamble. I'll say it.
Good. Heidi says, it takes courage to be a badass and show sensitivity. Sorry.
Thank you.
And
is that it, everybody?
Yeah.
Well,
questions?
We didn't exactly go through every animal like we could, but I think that we have all that information on our website if anybody has specific questions about my investigations of factory farms. But I think we were promoting some of the videos in my investigations of ducks, pigs, and cows, I think. So, and you should see all the little animals we have over here. It's really funny. We got so excited talking about veganism because, veganism is something so positive. And I think that people don't recognize. They think that we're doing without something, without recognizing that we're actually we're gaining so much. We're gaining the ability to wake up and know we're doing our best to not harm anybody else. And the bonus again is, well, when we don't just eat junk food in the office, the bonus is that we'll be healthier. The bonus is we're having less of an impact on the environment. So, yeah.
Jaya says, I love the photo where you were handcuffed to the door. Tell us about that photo.
I don't. So I was part of a campaign against General Motors because they were crash testing on animals, and ran a long time campaign against them. And this was when I was in college, and so I think that the organization that was behind it was wanting people to step it up. And so when I was in college, I decided to handcuff myself to a GM car to protest, and convinced the woman with me was with what was formerly known as the Fund for Animals. And I asked her to come up from Houston to join me in Austin to get arrested. And so we handcuffed ourselves to the van, got a lot of media, and realized later that the dealership was closed. So the dealership was like, they can stay out there all day. So lesson 1 in some of my acts of civil disobedience. I've since been arrested many, many times for the animals since then. But that's one of those things that you think about, when you're about to do some type of action. You're like, let's make sure they're open. So anyway, it's a learning experience. So that one I did not get arrested for, but yeah, many more to come.
Definitely. You should tell them about the T-shirt you're wearing in that photo.
Yeah. So I was being cheeky, and I worked at Blockbuster. I worked 3 jobs in college, and one of my jobs at Blockbuster Video. And so we would get all this free merchandise for the movies would come out. And so I thought I would wear the kindergarten cop shirt because I thought it'd be really funny when I got arrested by a cop to be wearing a kindergarten cop shirt. Yeah.
It's pretty great. That's great. Grayson says, I basically study your website for my class, but I'll definitely try to set something up. You two are amazing, and I thank you.
Thank you, Grayson.
Yes. Alejandra. This is Alejandra.
Alejandra, our volunteer?
Yes.
You rock star. Thanks for watching.
She's asking, what is Procter & Gamble?
Procter & Gamble is a company that makes products such as Tide and Crest, Scope, a lot of products, and they a lot of cleaning products, and they test on animals. So what they do is they'll get concentrated forms of a product, and I'm sorry for Tara and Mark who are watching this because it's about bunnies, but they will shave fur off of, say, a bunny or a mouse or a rat, and they'll put concentrated forms of this chemical on the animal till it basically eats through them, or they'll put concentrated forms of these products into the eyes of animals, primarily like rabbits and rats and mice. And it's not required by law for household and cosmetic products. So shampoos, conditioners, cleaning products are not required by law to be tested on animals. They're required to be tested for safety, but not necessarily on animals. And corporations like Procter & Gamble, L'Oreal continue to do so. So there's a long time boycott, and I wish I could tell you other Procter & Gamble products they buy and sell products so often, but these are some of the main ones that I think they still own. But thanks for asking about that. You can go to our website, and our page on veganism will have a link to getting a list of products that do, and I think just do not test on animals. But these products are available at places like Target. Sorry to promote a company, but I'm just trying to make sure that people who don't have access to fancy places know where else to get it.
And to not go to Walmart.
And do not go to Walmart.
Heidi says, our bunny Emeline wants to know when the last time was that you were arrested for the animals.
Oh, Emeline! Of course, Emeline wants to know this. Emeline is the one who picked out the name Chavez for our. These are the tags that get put on the vegan grocery stores of the chocolate that we recommend. Emmeline's the cute white bunny who picked the name Chavez for us. So yes, Emeline. So Emeline was rescued from a meat farm in Sonoma County I'm going to get all weepy about Emeline. Emeline was raised for meat, and she was rescued. And she almost didn't live because of the horrible conditions in which they left her in. And she was rescued by our friends Tara and Heidi. And she is amazing. If you can watch the video of her, that girl's got so much freaking personality.
Yeah.
Love white bunnies with those red eyes. They're full of bunnitude. But we were involved in a campaign against Whole Foods Market for selling bunny meat. And I was out at a protest at Whole Foods in Sebastopol. And I felt it was in my right, because in California we have had great freedom of speech laws that have protected us, which have since been eroded. But typically I would be allowed to stand in front of any place that was maybe privately owned, but it was open to the public. It used to be I could stand at the front entrance and it would be legal. So I was leafleting in front of Whole Foods, asking their customers to get them to stop selling bunny meat. And I was asked to leave by the manager, and I wouldn't leave. So the manager called the police, which I said, go ahead and call the police, I don't care. And so they continued to ask me to leave, and I would not leave. And eventually the police officer was like, do you want us to arrest her? And the manager went like this and get her out of here, which is funny because I've had that happen to me in front of Neiman Marcus on video. The media caught it when Neiman Marcus had me arrested protesting against fur. But they had me removed. They pulled me over and told me they were going to arrest me. So then I started saying out loud that Whole Foods was arresting me to hide their sale of bunny meat. Luckily, they only gave me a citation. Then I had to deal with months of finding an attorney and everything like that. But it was for bunnies like Emeline that I did this. So that was not that long ago. I was not intending to be arrested. There's been a few times when I've been arrested and I wasn't intending to, but because I'm pretty stubborn and I don't like people telling me I can't do outreach for the animals, I sometimes stand my ground too long. But the vast majority of times I've been arrested, I knew I was engaged in civil disobedience.
Yes. Jake says, what was your favorite arrest?
There's so many. I was arrested once during a protest against UC San Francisco for animal experimentation, where about 100 of us marched through the lab, and some animals were liberated, and I was arrested, but they couldn't pin any charges on me, so there was no proof that I was the person who liberated any of the animals. So that was wonderful. I also stood my ground. This is a funny. I could just go on with all my arrest stories because they're all really funny, but I guess I was asked for my favorite, so that's probably one of them. I've been punched in the face by a cop, San Francisco cop, protesting in front of Neiman Marcus, where pretty much all of us were punched in the face, but I was punched in the face, and a lot of tourists saw it and complained, and I went flying into buckets of flowers. But yeah. Oh. Cops. Oh, I mean, I did not want to say that.
That's so funny. We totally said it at the same time. Alejandra says, thanks for your answer. Good thing I buy cruelty-free.
Yay.
Just wanted to know more about the practices. Also, I greatly admire you.
Aww. We are so happy to have you. You have no idea, Alejandra. We're so excited. Alejandra goes to UC Berkeley and is from Mexico. And she's going to be interning with us and helping us with our school supply drive for the children of farm workers. And we are beyond excited to have her join our crew.
Mm-hmm. Heidi says, Emeline and the rest of our bunny family thanks you for standing up for them.
Always.
And Jaya says, punched in the face by a cop. Sounds like an abuse of power. Definitely
Cops
is.
abusing power? But thank you, Jaya.
I know. Yeah, it's awful. Nothing else.
Nothing else.
No.
We could sit here all day and chat with y'all, but this is actually our final one, unless Erica hears on social media that you want more and you have ideas on what you want to hear us talk about.
Yeah.
Because literally, if you could see our office, that's Erica's desk, this is my desk, and we chat all day long about our work, but about other things that are going on in the world. And I feel incredibly, incredibly lucky to work with Erica. And
my God,
you would think I'm like some on Weep Fest today. What did I? Oh, it's because I had caffeine. Maybe I don't usually have caffeine, and I was sleepy, so I had
tea.
I had tea, and it was
It wasn't the greatest tea, but we had tea this morning.
I needed more.
I
needed more agave. But yeah, very lucky to work with Erica, and you all. She's the one you correspond with all the time on social media. We talk about sometimes what to say back to you, but she's the superstar.
Oh my God, Lauren.
Sorry. It's hard. How do you not appreciate other? You know what I mean? You got to appreciate, and we got to, got to be there to remind everybody how great our crew is, and how wonderful women are, and women of color, and how incredible we are, and all that we can accomplish together. It's very important for us to do that. Oh, but I just remembered something that I remembered on my own, which is to ask everybody to donate to Food Empowerment Project. Can you believe I remembered that?
Yeah,
I think it's because I'm all about our new campaigns. Everybody, fundraising. We are 11 years old. May 1st, May Day is our birthday for worker issues. That is our birthday. And over 11 years, majority of the organization, I've had a full-time job. It wasn't until 2013 when I started doing this. Erica has been with us over a year. What, a year and 6 months now?
September 2016 is when I came on.
And so we are still really small. There's just two of us. But I am so excited about our dairy effort and all the things that I want to do with it.
So many things.
As well as the Fight for the Ocean effort. I'm calling them efforts because I really want them to be campaigns. We don't have the money to hire people to make them proper campaigns. So, this is me. And my board is probably like, wow, Lauren's doing this. Because it's very, very... Growing up with no money in my life means that asking for money is incredibly difficult. But I will. We have a 50,000 matching right now, and we really have so much we want to do. We want to increase our veganism and our way of doing veganism, which is about building bridges and connecting various issues, whether it be people of color, conservationists, and showing how we can all work together and be stronger. But there's a lot that we want to do. And so... all I can just ask is, we know not everybody has money. Clearly, I know that not everybody has money. But we just ask that if you can give, please do. Because there's a lot to do, and we want to be able to do it in our unique way.
Yeah. I mean, we do so much already on such a limited budget, and just based on Lauren's ideas and everything she talks to me about every day, it's like a new idea, seriously. And so just if we had the bandwidth, if we had the money coming in, I can't even imagine how big and just the amazing things FEP could do for this world, and even just for this little community that we're living in right now. It's just, there's so much we can do. And yeah.
And I'm going to give you just a little bit of background. I know you're like, people, shut up. But one of the reasons why we're doing the work we're going to be doing the way that we are on the dairy industry is because it's about building community, truly building community. And we can't do that if we're being controversial. We can only do that if people can understand where we're coming from and join us on empathizing. I could go on social justice issues and how this is coming from, looking back and learning from other social justice issues. But that's what's worked with these other social justice issues. I mean, there have been laws that have been passed, but racism still exists in this country. So we have to do things differently. We have to. And I look at the way that Harvey Milk did his work, and his work was so much about building the community. And I want to honor that, and I want to honor how successful that was. And doing it just in a different way, but truly building community. And so it's going to look different than how other groups engage in veganism. We are going to be focusing, at least for the dairy industry, on a community, because we want to value and respect a community because we live here and we respect those who live here. And we know that there's a very diverse community, because you may have the dairies out here, but people of color are the ones working in those dairies too. And so it's going to look different, it's going to be different, but it has to be different, because one way is going to work here may not work in another way. And so part of our ability to work on veganism is going to be respecting that. We're not going to go to one community and dash off somewhere else after we've planted the seeds. We want to plant those seeds. We want those seeds to grow and be strong. And we want those roots to dig deep. So there is some clear understanding about empathy and compassion for human and non-human animals.
Definitely. Going back a little, Jaya says she has an idea. Let's interview Erica next time.
Yay,
I will just have a hot flash the entire time, and it would be awful, Jaya, so please no. Heidi says, we think this should be a weekly event. It is so informative and helps others put a face to your organization.
Thank you.
I do agree with that, but maybe we can cut me out a little.
Nope, right? Because leadership in organizations and revolution is never about one individual. It's about everybody. And Food Empowerment Project, my 30 years is focused on me, but the work of Food Empowerment Project is focused on everybody, including Erica, including our community organizer, including all of our volunteers, our board members, our supporters, some of which you're hearing from. So it's all of us, right? I use the word revolution because I love many revolutionaries. And the thing I've learned from them is it's not just one person. And so it's important to me to have Erica here because her voice and her experiences are important too. We will honor and respect her comfort level, though.
Thank you.
We will, because you can be a leader and you can be a powerhouse without having to break your comfort level. And so we are respecting Erica, but also nudging her and reminding her she's a leader and she's going to be doing a lot more organizing for Food Empowerment Project.
I feel like this, I was going to say podcast, this almost feels like a podcast at this point. This live
they could see us.
It's just talking too much about me in this live.
It's about the animals.
So moving on.
Humans. Okay.
Grayson says, always want more. They're entertaining and informative. Thank you.
You're saying that because of Shark.
Right. Alejandra says, I want to protest and do not... Whoa. Okay, sorry. Let me start over. It jumped up. I want to protest and do that type of activism more, but as a non-citizen, I can't get arrested. How do you think I could become more involved as an activist?
There are so many ways. You can join in on our Safeway campaign because we are asking activists around the country to go in front of Safeway and protest their offensive, detrimental, restrictive deed policy that prevents other grocery stores from moving into their vacant buildings. So that, there again, a lot of times that I got arrested, I 100% knew I was going to get arrested. And really, to not get arrested when they tell you to leave, you just leave. I didn't. Every time I was told to leave, I wouldn't leave. So there are absolutely ways, and we'd love to have you by our side at some of these, and we will protect you.
Definitely. Kez says they're trying to make a donation, but it's not allowing them to.
What's up with that, Erica?
I don't know. But Andrea, thank you so much for putting that link to the donation, or to our donation page. So thank you. So if that doesn't work, please let us know. Yeah, you can go to our website, foodispower.org, and there is a donate button up at the top that you can try. That should definitely work if this doesn't work on Facebook. Let's go through. Jaya says, oh, Lauren, please tell us about the new and exciting opportunity to work with FEP.
Oh, thank you, Jaya. We have a job opening right now at Food Empowerment Project, trying to grow our crew to 3. It is for an operations and development manager. And Erica, can you put the link on?
I will definitely.
So Erica will put the link to the job description. It is working here with us, our very tiny office. I want to believe we can get 2 more desks in here. But it is we're asking for people who are people of color or disabled. We really encourage you to apply, but obviously anybody should apply to the job. We want somebody who has nonprofit experience as well as managing experience. What did I say? Fundraising experience, managing experience, nonprofit experience, and what else? Basically, the job is, everything we do is an all-together kind of thing. So, but we need somebody to help manage. There's a lot of stuff. There's so much stuff that goes into running a nonprofit that you have no idea of. All the things that have to be filled out. We've tried to do everything 100%. We have done everything 100% on the books. We have a lawyer who helps with everything. We have a CPA. We do everything. The wage, I believe, is around $43,000, a little bit over $43,000. Yeah, hopefully somebody can post that.
I got it up there. It is in the link now.
It is in the link. So we got the job up. We just please apply. We'd love to work with people who understand a holistic view of veganism and food justice, that it's about connecting all these issues. And we want somebody to help our team grow and can help us grow, who has some experience in fundraising to help us grow.
Definitely. Andrea, thank you. She says, Erica's a badass. So much amazingness to come from that one. You make me feel very uncomfortable, but thank you.
It's uncomfortable. I will put her through.
I know. Jaya says, yay, I love the podcast. I mentioned the podcast.
Because Jaya wants us to do a podcast.
I know. I don't know. So yeah, nothing else. That's it.
Cool.
Yeah. No other questions. I think we got a little off topic here on this podcast a couple times, but
podcast?
God,
I thought it was a Facebook
podcast.
Live.
Now it's in my head.
What did we get off topic on?
Just kind of jumping all over the place.
We did.
Yeah, but
I guess. Sorry about that, everybody.
It all makes sense. It all ties together. But yeah, so
thanks everybody. Thanks for tuning in. If you are not vegan and want help going vegan, please reach out to us. We're happy to help you any way that we can. And we do have information on our website. We have a whole veganism page that talks about all the animals, sea critters, as well as recipes and things like that. But yeah, don't be scared of veganism. It's just one way that we have in our daily lives to try and reduce suffering in this world, and
definitely
the world could use it.
For sure.
So,
all
cool.
Right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
have a
you.
wonderful rest of your day. I was like, is it weekend, day?
All right. Bye, everyone. If I can get it. Sorry, guys.